All right, this video is a follow-up to the instructional video. And this is to show you just a few tips and tricks and gotchas that students ran into tonight. All right, so a few things to really understand about Illustrator is that we have two color blocks. And you can see from this overlay, the fill is the solid color, the square, and the stroke is the outline. And whichever one is on top, you switch back and forth, is what you are changing on an item. So if I have this L selected, it's showing me it has no stroke and it's black color. So I click to the solid and now I can change the color. All right, so we have two arrows, the black arrow and the white arrow. Our black arrow is our selection arrow. So this is the entire object, right? So anything I select, I'm moving the entire thing. So when I've made a path, and this is one unit now, it moves together. In contrast, the white arrow is the direct select. And what that means is it's a smaller portion. So anytime you're doing a smaller portion move, you're going to use direct select, right? So that is your white arrow. And so with nothing selected, I can come in with my direct select and I can grab a single anchor. And you know an anchor is selected because it's solid versus open, right? So if it has a stroke, it's not selected. Solid is selected. Now, with my direct select, so my white arrow, I can hold down Shift on my keyboard and I can click more than one anchor, right? In this case, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. By holding down Shift, it lets me add to my selection. Now I could still move using my keyboard, the arrows right and left, those anchors, right? Okay. Another thing that I saw happen is if your color selection, if you come in, you grab your color, you pick bright green, and it shows as gray. And you're thinking, why is that happening? In your color, check your flyout panel and make sure it doesn't accidentally go to grayscale. It should be on RGB and then it will show your color in red, green, and blue colors. All right, another thing, when you use your text tool, you click once, right? Click once. And it should fill a line of text, lorem ipsum. Then you type your letter. Otherwise, if you kind of click and drag, you're making a box, okay? So click once for our letters. So you do one letter. Okay, if you want to change its size or what font it is, you're going to change its character. So in one, we're using Rockwell. You can change the size, or you can shift, hold down Shift, keep Shift selected the entire time, and scale from a corner. Very important not to stretch your text in Illustrator. All right, so the first step we're doing with every letter is type, create outlines. So many of you are forgetting or thinking, I don't know if I created outlines or not. If it's not a font, if it's not still type, then create outlines will not be selected. If it is, then you haven't changed it yet. So watch, once I've changed it, I now have anchors, right? And I cannot use my text tool and get a flashing cursor to be able to change that to a letter Z. Also, if I select it and I go to type, create outlines is now grayed out, right? So that's how you can always check, did I already create outlines or not? See if create outlines shows up. Now another hint, which seems a little bit self-explanatory, but when you're new to a program, you don't necessarily think about it, is any command that you're doing, whether it's changing colors, whether it's saying create outlines or using your Pathfinder, which we're using a lot, you have to have something active or selected on your artboard. Otherwise, the program doesn't know what to do that to. So if you're saying divide, what objects are you saying to divide? If you're saying unite, what objects? I've got a lot of things on my screen. So you have to have something selected before you do a command, whether it's colors or pathfinding or creating outlines. You have to have what you're trying to manipulate or change be selected. Now, also, I'm seeing that students are afraid, like, well, which arrow do I use? Try one, and if it doesn't do what you expected, make sure you use edit, undo. Okay, now also pay attention on all of your commands here, like copy. You can see the key command, Command C, right to the right. So you can start to learn key commands for things that you use often. But just make sure you undo. So if I came in and I tried to move my T with my white arrow, as long as I'm selecting in the solid, I can move it. Now another trick is always click off of everything and then go in and make sure you select just what you want. Right? Now with the black arrow, it's always the whole thing. I can't go in and get just a single point. All right. So one other tip is, let's see. If I take this A, and it's a font right now, it's type, so I go type, create outlines, then I click off of everything. When I'm working with my line tool, okay, it is a line, so it's a path, and right now my line tool is stroke none. So I need to switch to the stroke and give it a color. And now, when I draw a line, I'll be able to see it. If I didn't, I put none to it, I see it, and then when I'm done drawing, it disappears. So how I can see it again is Window, View, Outline. An outline shows you everything on the screen. No matter its color, it's showing you the outline. You can select just like you can in preview mode. You're just viewing it a different way. You haven't actually changed the stroke or the color or anything. You're just viewing it differently. And then you still can delete it with your delete button on your keyboard. So when you are, let's just say that we are uniting these two letters. So I need to do type, create outlines. Now, I can click and drag across with my red arrow, my black arrow, and say unite, right? So unite in Pathfinders groups it as one. So if I undo and let's say we do it like this, okay, that still works. Let's say we divide and then we unite. Okay, so sometimes you are going to get where your counterforms are going to fill in when you do unite. So in those scenarios, you can come in with your direct select, so your white arrow, and you're going to hold down shift to keep adding to the selection, and you want to just add just where there's solid color, not the negative space. Now that I have all of those pieces, the solid pieces selected, if I say unite, it will unite them. Sometimes you have to do it more than once, so I just use shift and I clicked once, twice, 3, because that's the other shape, and say unite. I think it's working, not quite. There we go. And sometimes you have to grab them individually for a little bit to try to get them to unite. Sometimes it just takes a little bit, honestly, of selecting one by one. So I'm like selecting, then unite again, depending on how complex. But what you'll see is I never selected the negative space, and so it didn't fill it in. So sometimes that's the difference. If you click with your black arrow and drag across, you've also selected your negative space. You can see I actually have some hidden shapes in there. So you can say view outline, and I can come in and select and delete out my hidden shapes. And a lot of times when you're making logotypes, you will find hidden shapes. All right, so that's just kind of a tip to show you view outline, to look for hidden things, and when you need to unite and it's filling in, then you're going to shift click just the areas that have a solid fill. All right, so hopefully those tips are helpful for you as you're working your way through the 4 logos that we're making in class, as well as your own logotypes.